Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and this time we've got the pleasure of watching just ESQ Shadow. Is ESQ a Squire Shadow? I'm going to be calling him just Shadow throughout this replay, playing in the very relevant Tier 9 British heavy tank. It is of course the Conqueror. Now I haven't featured this tank on this channel in 4 years, and that's quite too long. But then again, this vehicle, it's never really been the most popular tank. I don't think people play it all that much. I don't think the British heavy tank tree, I should say, has been all that popular. Sure, the FV215B has been an interesting tank in the hands of a capable player, but now the spotlight is all on British heavy tanks, as we know. In next patch, probably ending up in about a month from now, maybe towards the end of October, we are going to be seeing the Super Conqueror go into the game. And also Wargaming are revamping the British heavy tank tree. Now, we don't know the full statistics of what's going to be happening to the Tier 9 Conqueror yet, but it looks like Wargaming are going to tone down the mobility maybe of this vehicle, maybe the rate of fire a touch, and buff up its armor. Because up until this point, really this vehicle has been a bit of a glass cannon. Sure, if you manage to only expose your turret armor and you never have an opponent above you, or you never have them have the side of your turret, the vehicle's been okay, right? Now, the main highlight of this tank has always been the 120mm main armament, because it sure as hell hasn't been the hull. The hull on this tank is garbage. We're talking about 50.8mm of side armor, 38.1mm of rear armor, even the side of the turret, as I mentioned, 88.9. That's not going to really be bouncing very much at all. And it's only, and the hull has 130 on the upper plate, but the lower plate is significantly weaker, and pretty much every tank that you're going to meet is going to be able to penetrate your lower plate from whatever angle they do decide to engage it in. And so that has meant that the Conqueror has been this mobile 120mm, and the gun on this tank has been a key performer. It's just like an M103, but pretty much better within every regard. It's got a better rate of fire. The DPM on this tank is a rather healthy 2,289. That's great for a Tier 9 heavy. The penetration, a decent 259 as well. The aim time, a lovely 1.9 seconds, and the accuracy 0.33 as well. This is probably the best 120mm at Tier 9 that's on a heavy tank. Although when you think about it, there aren't that many, not that much competition out there at Tier 9, right? But when you can just snap in shots in the Conqueror, it does feel like a pleasure to play. And talking about snapping in shots, that's another thing that this vehicle has over its Tier 9 heavy tank competition. The fact that it's... Oh dear, that ST1 just raised his gun up at the worst possible moment. It's almost as if he planned that. Did the ST1 go, no, I want to help my T10 on the enemy team, right? But yeah, the dispersion values when you're moving on the Conqueror are also better than some of its competition. That's what I was trying to highlight there. And so you don't even really have to stop for very long at all, and a good thing, because the second you give your opponents a chance to shoot you in the hull, then they're going to be doing some significant damage. And then it's your fairly healthy 1,950 hit point pool that is going to add to the durability of this vehicle. Now, other things that I really like about the Conqueror are, of course, the 400 meters view range. That's lovely, and it's decent to have at Tier 9. It's standard at Tier 10, but to have it at Tier 9, if you do choose to use coated optics on this tank, or if you just have an exceptionally skilled crew, you're going to start to get up into that decent high view range mark, right up until the 445 spotting distance. Now, Just Shadow has a rather tricky situation on his hands here. Lots of Tier 9 tanks advancing towards him, and that's because this is a +0, -0 matchup where everyone is Tier 9. Oh, gosh. The artillery has relocated all the way to the back of the map here where I'm drawing on. And he manages to lob a shot over, and that's one of the most frustrating things about the Conqueror. And when I was originally playing through this tank, back when artillery hit a hell of a lot harder, maybe wasn't quite as accurate or didn't have the rate of fire or the aim time, but the hull armor on this tank just feels absolutely tragic. And look how fat the vehicle is. This is a fat tank. And so I would take artillery hits constantly in this vehicle, and when you did, sometimes you'd even be penetrated and one-shot by artillery. Well, I certainly don't miss that aspect of artillery when I am playing in my heavies. So Just Shadow secures his first kill of the game. And one thing that I've been a little bit disappointed about so far in Just Shadow's gameplay is I think he got a bit lazy and he just dabbed that 2 key and he's been firing APCR rounds, not really necessarily, and he's been bouncing a lot of APCR, missing a lot of APCR, but very soon he's actually going to run out and then he's going to have to dig deep. And you don't really need the APCR rounds in this tank unless you're probably engaging something like the Type 4 Heavy on the enemy team, or maybe if you just want to penetrate the superstructure on the Jagdtiger, because as I mentioned, the 259mm of penetration on the standard rounds is rather decent. Now, one thing that I don't like about the Conqueror is the 7 degrees of gun depression this tank has, and as you can see, he doesn't even have enough depression until he falls back to this location to be able to engage. But that aim time, that accuracy, and that rate of fire will come in handy as the Object 704 decides to assault through. Now, the Jagdtiger that's on Just Shadow's right did save him from the 5120, but he was unable to lock the Object 704 in place to stop him from shutting down the Jagdtiger to return the favor. But he puts one round into him now down to 379. That's a rather decent roll, 440 out of 400. That means that to all intents and purposes, he will be able to one-shot the Object 704 unless he rolls very low with his next shot. But he's got this WZ-111-14 to handle as well. I think what Just Shadow is trying to do right now is just slow down these tanks to be able to allow the Bat Chatillon 155-55 that is to his west to be able to give him some support. So Just Shadow side scrapes out round the corner, bounces the Object 704, and that's because this vehicle has the 50.8mm of side armor, which means that the 152mm of the Object 704 will not quite get over the 3 caliber rule to overmatch the side of the tank. That 0.8, very important in that scenario, and that means that he survives to be able to shut down the 111-14 and the Object 704. That's something that's very interesting about this vehicle. You can side scrape against ISU 152s, you can side scrape against Object 704s, you can side scrape against Object 268s, but do not side scrape against anything with a 153mm caliber gun and higher. So we're talking about all the T-30s, we're talking about the other tier 10 tank destroyers like the T110E3, the T110E4, all of those vehicles that use those high caliber guns. You cannot side scrape against that in your Conqueror. Now I wonder if Just Shadow realized that, or if he was just trying to force the engagement, and he really had to, because now he's finding himself in a 2 versus 6 with the support of the self-propelled gun on his team. One thing that we just noticed a few minutes ago is this was looking like it was going to be a 2 versus 7, but the artillery was TK'd by the Type 4 Heavy. Now I don't know why he did that, but that's definitely going to help out Just Shadow here, because the artillery was clearly in this location from when he last shot him. And now without the fear of artillery, that means that Just Shadow should be able to go hull down and just use his turret. Oh dear, somebody in the cap circle decides he doesn't want to cap, so Just Shadow plows straight forwards, because surely that guy's going to be able to get out from around the cap circle and shoot him in the butt. But Just Shadow realizes that, knows that he's not going to try and cap and instead be greedy and try and come and get Just Shadow's corpse. But now he changes his 1 versus 6 into a 1 versus 5. Well, again, and he's obviously got a secret agent in the form of the Type 4 Heavy on the enemy team to help him out as well, because if that artillery was still alive, there's no way he could have sat in this location. Now up to 5 kills, 485 hit points left. That means that he can take a shot from the 5120, the WZ-132A. Talking about the WZ-132A, he bombs around the corner. Oh, great roll there, 428, taking out the tier 9 Chinese light tank to stop him from flanking, and the 111-14 missed him. Now remember, this 120mm with its crazy rate of fire does allow you to just pump the shots out. And Just Shadow realizes the 111-14 having missed, even though he fired, I believe, just after to take out the WZ-132A, he's going to reload first to be able to engage him. The 111-14 makes a terrible mistake there, and now Just Shadow has changed his 1 versus 6 into a 1 versus 3. But boy, there's some dangerous tanks left on the enemy team, right? That 5120, if he manages to get the frontal hull or even the side or the rear, he's easily going to be able to murder the Conqueror. The Jagdtiger will one-shot him, and the Type 4 Heavy, if he lands a high explosive shell anywhere near the tank or on the upper hull, even anywhere on that hull armor, he's probably going to be able to take him out with a single shot if he is using the derp gun. But then again, earlier, did we not see the Type 4 Heavy do 500 damage to him? I believe. Oh no, it was a WZ-111-14. My mistake. I thought it was the Type 4 Heavy penetrating the armor piercing round, but it was indeed that tier 9 Chinese heavy tank. Irrelevant of the gun, We're going to find out right now what it is going to be as the Type 4 Heavy decides to crest the ridge. That Tier 9 Japanese heavy tank already having killed one player on his team. Let's see if he's going to make up for it and get his score to 0 and wreck Just Shadow here. Just Shadow tries to shoot up at the cheeks of the Type 4 Heavy but was unable to do so, but now finds a shot up into the cupola. The Type 4 Heavy misses. That was the derp gun with the large caliber high explosive round, and the 50-120 bounces off Just Shadow because of the great rate of fire. Even though he absorbs the shell, he shuts him down, and now he loads a high explosive round because even though he left the Type 4 Heavy on 5 hit points, he's got a terrible reload with that big old derp, and so Just Shadow can reload and bring the game to a 1 versus 1. Wow, 9 kills, 6,000 damage dealt here. One of the best games I've ever seen so far in the Tier 9 British heavy tank, but he's still got his work cut out for him as there was a Jagdtiger spotted towards the northern part of this map. Now, what should he do here? What's Just Shadow's best bet? With 4 minutes and 30 seconds left on the game, I guess he could try and make a move towards the cap circle. Is he going to be able to reach there? Yeah, he will be. He will have 2.5 minutes to be able to get there before he has to start capping. That should be enough to be able to make it up, but it is starting to cut it. Okay, now probably he's just deciding to lock down this location and try and spot out. I actually like what he's doing here. What he's trying to do is just see if the Jagdtiger is going to pop up from this location on the map, and also from here he's going to be able to see if the Jagdtiger comes around this corner or if he comes around that corner. I guess what he's thinking is if the Jagdtiger crests here, he'll go straight forwards and down the slope. If the Jagdtiger appears here, he's going to be able to pull back or maybe even just go hold down against the Jagdtiger. And if the Jagdtiger gets spotted here, he can just reverse up into safety. So I tell you what, Just Shadow, if you were thinking that during this game, then congratulations to you, because it looks like you're preparing for every situation. Or maybe your heart is just beating at a rate of knots, right? And you're trying to figure out if you can calm yourself down to be able to keep your nerves steady to be able to shut down this 1 versus 1. But we don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure out where the Jagdtiger is now. He's clearly inside the cap circle, and Just Shadow has 1 minute and 20 seconds to be able to go and establish, firstly, how many hit points that Jagdtiger has. And that's going to be something that's very important to figure out. The Jagdtiger has 1 kill, which suggests he has been in a fight. He also has been spotted. That probably means that he's not on full health, but he could be. We're going to have to find out. The reason why this is so important is not to figure out how many shells Just Shadow is going to be in. Well, not alone to figure out how many shells he's going to have to penetrate to take out this Jagdtiger, but he doesn't have very much ammunition left. He's got 1,600 average damage with his armor-piercing rounds, but he has 2 Hesh rounds as well, and this is where the Conqueror is special. Look at the penetration on the Hesh rounds, these special high-explosive squash head ammunition on his 3 key. They have 120 millimeters of penetration. That is very high penetration for a high-explosive round, and that's one of the specialities of your British vehicles towards the top tiers. It used to be on the old FV4202. Oh wow, nice shot into the back there. The first armor-piercing round into the Jagdtiger. And it's on the FV215B183 now, and also vehicles like the Charioteer, although we'll have to see how long that stays if Wargaming do plan on changing those tanks, and also on the Conway. So the Jagdtiger decides to rush down. Oh god, that's not how to best use your ammunition. Poor Just Shadow. The Jagdtiger still requires 3 penetrating shots here. There's one of them. 396, not too bad, but still 782. We've got to hope that this one rolls high. Please roll high, otherwise he's really going to struggle. Oh god, 346. He has to penetrate 1 out of these 2 remaining high explosive rounds to be able to kill the Jagdtiger, because even though they do have 120 millimeters of penetration, they're not going to do it by shooting him in the tracks. Just Shadow, you should have shot the side of the hull there. You might have been able to finish off that Jagdtiger if you shot him in the upper side superstructure. But now he leaves the Jagdtiger on 274 hit points, I believe. Was that 274? Yes. So that means he is now got to try and shoot that Jagdtiger either in the back or in the side of the armor when he's completely flush on at a tangent to the side of the tank. So Just Shadow does something very sneaky here. Looks like he's going up, then he goes down. Will he be able to find the side? No, he realizes he won't be able to penetrate that shot, and he's only got 1 round remaining. Talking about neck and neck stuff right now. 42 seconds left on this game. The Jagdtiger can't cap out now, so surely this Jagdtiger is going to try and push around the corner to be able to take him out, but the Jagdtiger probably doesn't want to expose his lower plate. I don't think he realizes that Just Shadow only has high explosive rounds left, and so he has to try and find a clear shot into the back or the side to be able to penetrate. Maybe if he gets above him, maybe that'll work, Just Shadow. Definitely don't want to shoot the upper hull. That's probably the worst place, and even the lower plate or the tracks is going to be able to absorb. Just Shadow this time decides to make his way round the back. 10 seconds left. 9, 8, 7, 6. Oh god, you got to find him soon. 5, 4, 3. There you go, right into the side of the tank with the last remaining shell in the game, shutting down this 1 versus 6 situation. Just Shadow picks up his 10th kill as well, 7,500 damage. I bet you all the people out there who are trying to grind their way towards the FV215B can pray that they can even have a game close to being as good as this in the upcoming month. So what around Just Shadow's ace tanker, unsurprisingly, for 1,919 base experience points in a tier 9. That is certainly an achievement. He picks up the Faden's medal for destroying the last remaining tank with his last remaining shell. A Kolobanov's medal, the one that everyone wants for standing alone against at least 5 opponents, in this case 6. The Pool's medal for his 10 kills, 2/3 of the enemy team. A Defender medal for protecting the cap circle against the Yag Tiger. And I'm surprised, where is his high caliber medal? How bizarre, why doesn't he get a high caliber medal for this replay? Was it because he damaged the gun of the ST1 on his own team? Nobody else did more damage, and 7,400 is clearly enough to be able to pick one up in this kind of matchup. So Just Shadow, Just Esquire Shadow, Just ESQ Shadow, whatever your name might be, congratulations to you. I absolutely loved your solid gameplay here at the end in that 1 versus 6. And the only thing that I didn't like is you just wasted an unnecessary amount of APCR rounds. But I guess in the end you would have had to have fired them anyway, but they would have probably been quite useful against the Type 4 Heavy and the Yag Tiger. Nevertheless, congratulations to you on this monster replay. It's always a pleasure for me to see high-tier British tanks doing well. And thank you for sharing your game with the community on the What Replays website. So I hope all of you out there enjoyed this video. If you did, consider giving it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, it's time for another World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. This week I asked you guys what you would want to see on Twitter, and James Moore made the fantastic suggestion for the FV215B. And considering that so many of you are grinding your way towards this tank right now, I asked it on Facebook. 88 of you liked that there. And so today will be an FV215B and British Heavy Tank Tech Tree Showcase. So come along right now, where I'm going to be starting at tier 1 and making my way all the way up to tier 10, so you can see if it's a line that's worth grinding, or pick up a few tips and tricks if you're making your way up it now. And so really looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.